Yeah, I'll
Radhe,
make
Radhe.
you host, Natanji, just a minute.
Is everything good, Mutamanji?
Yes, yes, all good. I'm just trying to.
All right, Radhe Radhe, everyone. A very good morning, good evening to each one of you. Thank you, Padmini ji and Gayatri ji, for a wonderful session.
Radhe, 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 everyone. Nitin ji, I think Amrutavani's voice is a bit low since 3-4 days. So I already informed her before starting. I thought like to inform her. Little low is her audio is.
Okay, no worries. I can
Yep.
compensate for that. Okay, so no worries.
Okay. Thank
All
you.
right. So welcome everyone. Good morning, good evening. Hope you having a wonderful start to your day and had a great day. Welcome to today's edition of Daily Wisdom from Bhagavad Gita. We've been talking about a formidable adversary that we all have to contend with. And that adversary is so strong that more often than not, I would say invariably, always, it beats us hands down. And today we are going to look at the 10 friends we can have. It's from Bhagvatam. The 10 friends we can actually utilize during the course of our lives to beat this formidable enemy. And that is where we are going to have a bit of a discussion around. Let me get started by sharing my screen. If you're joining in for the first time, very warm welcome. We will get started with our opening prayers. So I'll share my screen and then we shall get started. All right. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Guru Devo Ishwaraha, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kam Mardana Devi Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Radhe Radhe, very warm welcome once again. Let's get started. So we are on 3.38 that we are going to do a quick recap and we'll get into, like I said, from Bhagavatam, what are the enemies or friends we could utilize on this journey called life to get closer to our goal and beat that formidable enemy that we are talking about. Like always, I'm going to recite. You're welcome to follow. We'll pick up 5 people, and especially if you feel confident and have been practicing, um, please come forward. And if you've not practiced, I would say you can practice the next one and then raise your hand. So let me get started and we'll get going then. धूमेनाव्रियते वह्निर् यथादर्शो मलेन च यथोल्बेनावृतो गर्भः तथा तेनेदमावृतम्. All right. Yes, Amrutamani ji, have you gained your voice back or?
I hope it is loud and clear now.
We can hear you loud and clear. So please call up. We'll take 5 participants today. So
Sure.
and then we can rotate participants because if more are interested, and I would strongly encourage you to take a look at the shloka, practice it. That way, it really helps actually. So let's get it going.
Yes. Rupa ji, can you please raise your hand? I think I accidentally lowered your hand. Meanwhile, yes. Go ahead, Rupa ji. You can unmute yourself.
Radhe, Radhe, everyone.
Radhe Radhe ji.
धूमेन व्रियते वह्निर् यथादर्शो मलेन च यतोऽल्पेन वृतो गर्भात् तथा तेनेदम् अवृतम्.
Thank you very much, Rupa ji. Radhe Radhe. All right, let's
Radhe Radhe.
more participants. We'll take 4 more.
Shruti ji, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe everyone. धूमेनावृतवाहनी यथा दर्शो मलिन च यथोल्बेनावृतो गर्भस्तथा तेनेदम् आवृतम्.
Very nice.
Radhe Radhe.
Shruti, thank you. Radhe Radhe.
Thank you.
Could hear you practice along with Rupa ji as well. All right.
Yeah. I do that with everyone.
Yeah, let's take 3 more and then we'll get started.
Yes, Shyam ji, please unmute yourself.
Radhe Shyam ji.
धूमेनाव्रियते वह्निर् यथा दर्शो मलेन च यथोल्बेनावृतो गर्भस्तथा तेनेदमावृतम्. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe, very nice, Shyam ji. Wonderful. Okay, 2 more to go.
Yeah, Shali ji, you can unmute yourself, Shali ji.
Radhe Radhe, Shali ji.
राधे राधे नितिन जी.
Radhe Radhe, Shali ji.
धूमेनाव्रियते वह्निर् यथादर्शो मलेन च यतोल्बेनावृतो गर्भस्तथा तेनेदमावृतम्.
Very
Radhe
nice,
Radhe.
Shali ji. Good to hear you. Thank you. Let's take 1 more and then we shall get started.
Yes, Pallavi ji, please go ahead. Radhe Radhe.
Yeah, Radhe Radhe everyone. धूमेनाव्रियते वह्निर् यथा दर्शो मलेन च यथोल्बेनावृतो गर्भास्तथा तेनेदम् आवृतम्.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Pallavi ji. So let's get started then. So the short translation of this shloka goes like, just as a fire is covered by smoke, a mirror is masked by dust, and an embryo is concealed by the womb, similarly one's knowledge gets shrouded by desire. We did look at it deeper yesterday. It's just the visibility of that object starts reducing. There's a thin layer of smoke around the fire. However, the fire is still visible. That was, we mapped it to the sattva part, the mirror which is translucent, where we can make out there is somebody, we can even see our face, although it's hazy. That's more on the rajas mode. And the womb example, embryo example is given because it is completely concealed. That is on the tamas side, right? So that is how we get shrouded by desire as well, depending upon whether the impact or the influence of that desire is mridu, small, medium, or really intense. Let's do a quick recap and then we will get started. So we saw that desire clouds the discriminatory ability of the intellect. Intellect is the faculty fitted in our body or machinery that we have, gross body, which discerns what is right and what is wrong in accordance with the knowledge that is activated in it. And when desire comes, it actually clouds that ability. That is somewhat similar to what happens when we get angry as well. Same thing happens. Whenever our intellect gets clouded, bad things happen. Essentially, that's what the message is. We also looked at this story where this person, although this person is in a very perilous situation, if you look at it, walking through a jungle, being chased by witch on one side and ferocious animals on another side, hanging upside down, being pushed towards a snake by the rats, and being stung by the wasps on his face, and still enjoying the honey and smiling at it, right? And we looked at this analogy and an allegory to, it basically reflects on human life, that we are actually living in a world which is besieged with danger at every step. We are being, the old age is waiting with bated breath for us, and diseases, they are, willing to catch up, playing a cat and mouse game with us. And then day and night are gradually, surely pushing us towards the final destination, which is the snake, right? Which is the death, which is technically exiting this cross body. And in the middle of all this, we keep on getting stung with the vast, which is the desires that come and trouble us, that okay, I need this, I need that, only if I have this. And whatever little pleasure we derive out of it is the drop of the honey, as you can see, is what we relish and forget the perilous situation that we are in. So that is how powerful the desires is, and that is how powerful, that is why it is being called as a formidable enemy by Lord Krishna in this particular shloka. So today we are going to talk about what is Bhagavatam informing us about the 10 friends who can actually help us defeat this formidable enemy. And I liked when I was reading through that, this approach of flanking came to my mind. This is a strategy actually. When I was doing my master's in business, in marketing also, this strategy is adopted, flanking strategy, where you approach something through multiple directions, not just one direction, especially at an angle, to overpower your adversary. So flanking term is used in American football, rugby as well, where you flank somebody and overpower them so that you can get the ball. And this strategy is employed in marketing as well, where if we have to sell something and we have to capture your mind share, we will appeal emotionally, and then tell you what is in it for you, and then also bring out a sense of belongingness if you have it, and all those strategies are employed. Similarly, what we are going to talk about here is these are the tools which life has put at our disposal, which can be employed to systematically dismantle and tackle this formidable enemy, which is called desire. And that is what we are going to look at. So this is basically flanking. It is called, even if you look at it in cricket or other sports, when the track is spinning, the bowler will typically have the batsman get crowded or flanked by so many players around to get those bat and pad catches. So it's a strategy that is adopted, that you just don't want to miss out on an opportunity, and you attack it from all angles so that the adversary is completely overpowered. There's absolutely no chance they can get out of it. Right? So that is the flanking approach we need, even from a spiritual standpoint as well, because desire is so strong that if you give it an inch, it will take a mile or a foot from you. That is how powerful it is. And we have seen how our mind works, right? When you feel like getting lazy, first it starts with a stretch of a hand, then gradually you'll put your feet on the table, and then after a while you'll be just lying down, right? So that is how our mind goes. You give it an inch and it will ask for a full mile from you. So let's look at what are those 10 friends we can have. So it's 11th canto, 13th chapter, and it's shloka number 4, which talks about agamo apah praja deshah kala karma janma dhyanam mantro and samskaro. These are the 10. So if we look at it, these are the tools we can employ, and we will go into each one of those and see how many we can cover today. The first one is the quality of religious scriptures, or the reading that we do, the time that we invest in reading. Second one is water, quality of water we intake. Third one is association with people, children, and people in general. The place, the time, activities, birth, meditation, chanting of mantras, and purificatory or the samskars, rituals that we do. They determine the mode of nature we acquire, and it becomes basically an enabler for our spiritual growth or otherwise. So let's start going through it one by one. The first one, like I said, is the agama, the type of books that we read. No dearth of self-help books and other books available as well, and we all like to read, right? And human mind has a tendency, based on the interest, we have an inclination to have we enjoy different kind of tastes around different genres as well, right? We have attraction for action, horror, comedy, love, extends to movies and novels as well, and fiction, escapism around it, because it enables us to live certain characters or give some food for our mind and live that part, vicariously. So there's a certain level of thrill that we derive from reading books, and the genres could really vary. Now, if we read books which are related with lust, it's bound to make us more lusty. Lust, as we know, it's an enemy, perpetual enemy. If you read a lot of fantasy, it is considered in a rajasic mode, or it could possibly be a mixture of rajasic and tamasic. I don't know which category Harry Potter would fall into, but typically these books would have a blend of both rajasic and tamasic. And if you read ghost stories, that falls into the tamasic genre. And if you read scriptures, it's sattvic. And if you simply, if you bring in remembrance of God and take it a little deeper, you can actually connect to the Shuddha Sattva, go beyond Sattva as well. The key point here being that what we are reading, we need to really watch out for that, because it's a food, it's generating thoughts. We are living that vicariously. And there is in a way, it's a chintan, or a deep contemplation that is going on as well. So when you get into characters, right, it reminds me of that movie Angur. This guy character, Sanjeev, it's a very hilarious movie. He used to read a lot of jasusi novels, detective stories, and his mind would always work like that. So even if somebody's walking by or knocking at the door, he will think some cop has come, or that guy is up to something. And that is how our minds go, actually. Whatever we read, that characters, those kind of impressions, indelible impressions, start forming in our mind. Our mind is like a very malleable thing, right? So anything that we put in our mind, it invariably leaves an impression on it. It's like that rubber stamp, right? You put it, that impression is still there. So when we read, and especially if you are an intense reader, and whichever genre we pick up, those kind of tendencies start coming in our mind as well. So, and those tendencies typically fall into one of these three categories, which are the modes of material nature. Either they'll be sattvic, if you are doing some reading around scriptures, or they will be tamasic, if we are doing about, all those things, ghost stories, and letting our imagination take flight around that. Or it could be rajasic, where it's pure fun, escapism. Okay, we want to lose touch with reality, and it gives us a pleasure actually to start living those characters, which are not actually real, and it's more kind of an escapism as well. So the first one is agam, like that's what Bhagavatam tells us, the type of books that we read, or the food that we give to our mind through books. We got to be careful about that, because it does have an impact. Now, if you do that, especially if you're doing it in any of these categories, sattvic is still better, you are fueling up desire there as well. Okay, so you are making the formidable enemy even more stronger. So that is where we need to watch out for. That's the first one. Even if you remember the ABCD of spirituality that we spoke about, the second one after A, which was an association, was B, book reading. So there also, depending upon what kind of books you are giving yourself, will really dictate the mindset or the thought process you develop, and whether it fuels your desire further, or extinguishes it, or dovetails it into a direction which is beneficial. All three possibilities are there, based on the kind of food we give to our mind through the books. The second one is apa, which is the type of water one drinks, right? As you can see, there's no dearth of the categories of water we can actually intake. In fact, these days, even the fresh water is sold. Somebody thought through that water commodity, which has been bestowed to us by God for free. If we simply put it in bottle, we can sell it, right? And it sells, actually, if you look at it. And interestingly, I was reading through that this water, the first one, the company that came, I think probably one of the first or the first one, when they sold that water, they branded it as Evian, EVAIN. So if you reverse those alphabets, it says knife. That knife, people will buy it. The water in the bottle, they'll pay for it. Anyways, now it has become a full-blown industry, and even I can't imagine, drinking tap water. I mean, in America, it's become a big fad now not to drink that. But what our Bhagavatam is saying is, getting back to our topic, the drinks that we choose, again, that can also fuel our desire, or we could actually use them to sublimate the desires, or mellow them down, to a level which is manageable. Now, if we are drinking alcohol, drinks which have alcohol in them, which is called cocktails or otherwise, then they are in tamasic category. If we are having cold drinks like Pepsi, Dil Mange More, then it is Rajasic. If you are having fresh juice, water, they are typically considered in Sattvic category. And in fact, not just drinking, even the eating part of it, the person who's preparing it, who's serving it, and the consciousness in which it is prepared, that also has a bearing on our mindset. So if you look at it, a lot of people who are very want to do that, very serious about their spirituality, especially on the ritual side of things, they would prepare their own food, because if they start in taking a lot of food which is prepared from commercial standpoint, and especially if we are not too deep into raganuga bhakti, it can really impact our consciousness. And it is said, if you start eating from the hands of a sinner, you'll start acquiring that consciousness as well. I don't know how far that is true. In fact, there was an experiment conducted where ISKCON people, they would simply stand on the traffic lights and distribute the prasadam that was offered to Lord Krishna in the morning arti, and they will simply distribute it to the people around. So people would think that they are distributing it. Are they expecting something in return? They would say, no, just have it, nothing else. And just by eating prasadam, people started flocking that, and it started changing their consciousness. So it is said that even if we go with the lure of prasad to a temple, it can change our consciousness when we keep on having it for a sustained period of time. That is how powerful food, what we ingest, intake in our mouth, that is how important it is, right? There's a saying also in Hindi, jaisa an vaisa man, because 1/3 of it becomes our mind, 1/3 of it becomes our body, and the remaining 1/3 gets expelled. So again, the apa is the second part. And also with the food, like you said, if you eat a lot of oily food, it's not just bad for our physical health, but for spiritual health as well, because it will make us lazy and then mind agitated. And on the contrary, the sattvic food has a calming effect, as I think Seemaji was telling the other day, when you do fasting, you're not even having food. So the temperament that you acquire during that period, that itself will tell you, it's a testimony to the fact that if we suppress our senses, even though we are doing it temporarily at that time, it does have a bearing on our mindset as well. So that is what Bhagavatam is saying. What you put inside, the quality of water that you put inside, that has a bearing on whether you are fueling up your desire or you are taking a corrective action around it. The third one is praja, the type of company we keep. It is a very, very important or critical influencer. There's a saying in English that we are the sum average of 5 people we generally hang around with. So choose those 5 people carefully. So the 5 people that you normally interact with, we end up becoming the sum average of those. Now let's look at further commentary on this. So man is known by the company he keeps. There's a saying, tell me who your friends are and I'll tell you who you are. That is how important it is, right? And even when we see the kids, like Swamiji gives that example, if you're a teenager and all, they've stopped listening to you, or they're started doing things which you don't expect out of them, and you are feeling troubled because of that, the first thing one needs to check is their company. It's a pretty good chance that the company that they're keeping is causing the behavior that they're having. So that is how important the company is. We don't realize that, but generally the people we generally interact with, we pick up a phone and talk to them, we interact with them, or we gossip with them for long hours, we are actually gaining a lot of their attributes as well. And so that is why if we choose quality people around us who can help us raise our game, we are doing ourselves a favor. And that is where the association, the ABCD of spirituality that we spoke about, the association is very, very critical. That is where the value of satsang comes, because when you sit in satsang, you are like-minded people and you are reciting God's name, thinking about God, and that devotional sentiment, that vibe is something that we all can benefit from. And on the contrary, if you are at a place where the vibe is completely different, you go to a pub or a casino, you will understand your mind will get agitated. You can feel it. You simply walk into a place where there's a lot of chaos happening. Your mind, you will know that it is agitated. And you go to a place where there's a lot of tranquility. You go to a temple, you go to a gurudwara, you go to a church. You will feel that tranquility, peace, some kind of divinity manifesting, or that calm that you would not feel otherwise. That is how powerful the company or the collective vibe is. That is why it's easy to meditate when you are in temple, because the vibe is very supportive. And if you sit in a bar or some other place, your mind will get disturbed. And that is why even in Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna is talking about the sadhana aspect of it, why it is important and why sadhana in isolation is important. Because then your vibes will not get disturbed. And then when you continue to do that at a particular place, those vibes become very supportive. Right? That place itself becomes very tranquil. Anyways, so the company part of it. So when you start associating with people who are spiritual, you will start imbibing those qualities. That is how it goes. And when you, on the contrary, if you start associating with a lot of materialistic people, all those things will start coming. Your mind will start getting agitated. So if you hang around with a lot of people who are talking about stock market, then you will see your mobile alerts, for the rest of your day. That is how big of an influence uh, uh, association can have. It is very automatic. It happens. We can claim that no, it doesn't impact me. It will impact you. Okay, scriptures are telling, Bhagavatam is telling us, so we cannot be an exception to that rule. That is how powerful association is. So choosing those 4 or 5 people around us is very, very important, and it can actually make or break our spiritual journey. And it is no different in case of dealing with the formidable enemy called desire, where if you have the right association, you are building an armor around you to quell desires which are not beneficial for our growth. So if we want to progress in Sattva Guna, obviously we need to keep an eye on the company that we are keeping and who we are associating with. Let's move on to the 4th one. It is the desh, the place we live in. It is very, very, very important. It does have a bearing on the mindset, consciousness, or the thought process we acquire, and the kind of life we lead. So if you live in a country or a city which is close to a temple, let's say, then obviously it has a large bearing or an influence on our day-to-day lives as well. So if you see devotees coming in, going, people doing seva, participating in aartis, it does make a lot of difference. And that is why you'll see there are a lot of people who make it a priority to live near places and things which actually give them a lot of opportunity to get associated with these kind of spiritual things. If you remember when I was talking about my journey, one of the reasons we moved to Dallas was because this thought came in my mind. I'm glad it did, for whatever reason, with God's grace of God, of course, that living near a temple would provide a very wonderful ecosystem for us to keep ourselves busy in a productive way. And I think God is resided within, and He just makes it happen. Once you make a desire, which is uh, about taking one step in its direction, He arranges for the rest. So same thing, it can happen when you live near something where you are seeing those kind of people coming in, out, or getting associated. It does have an influence on our lives as well. And that is why in Bhagavatam, the 4th one, in that particular shloka, is called as a desha. On the contrary, if you are living near a place where you're seeing people getting drunk and falling over each other, your consciousness takes a spin there as well. That is how important the place is as well. And if you go to Vegas, you can feel the vibe of that city. Okay, that it does play actually on our minds, and it does matter with the place that you live in, the kind of mindset you start acquiring as well. I had a friend, who used to be with us in Phoenix. Um, he was pretty spiritual that time, and used to be we used to go to satsang and all that stuff, and he was doing a lot of seva with us as well. And then he got a job in Amazon, and because of which he had to move to Seattle. And then after a while, I was speaking to him, so I was asking him, what is the vibe of Seattle? What is the difference you feel between the two cities? You are in Phoenix. He said the vibe in itself is completely different. God and going to such places is the last thing that comes to our mind, because everybody is running after the next position or the next package, better package they can get, or how many stocks, or all that stuff. So the vibe is so materialistic that these things which would come to us naturally when we were there in Phoenix, it takes a lot of effort for me to do that. And he was admitting that. So that itself basically proves the point. And you can feel it yourself. There are certain cities which have a different vibe altogether. When most of the people, or the collective consciousness, is going after materialistic things, you will also feel that in your mind. So the desh, or the place that we live in, matters a lot as well. And if you look at it from even the place that we live in, the energy flow, especially if a lot of things are lying around, it's a clutter in your house, the energy flow is not good. And there's a saying in English, right? Cleanliness is next to godliness. There's a reason for that. And if you look at the Chinese Feng Shui, or even the Vastu science, it says the cleaner surroundings, more positive energy is associated with it, and there's a more happiness and calm you would feel. More clutter you have, and the lesser are the chances of you feeling peaceful. So that is also a concept. So the place that where you are, it does have a bearing on our spiritual journey as well. So this is the fourth one. The fifth one is kala, the way we spend our time during the day. So the clock doesn't stop for anybody, it just keeps moving. And there are three things. One of the guy I had met, he told me, and I really loved that fact. He told me one, and a couple of others I added myself. He said that if we don't put a vessel to our time, second thing was to our wealth, money, and third thing is water, it will find its way. If you don't put a vessel where you are doing something with it productively, hopefully, it will find its way. If you have money and you have not employed a vessel where you are doing something good with that, it's not in everybody's prarabdha, or I would say good fortune, for them to be able to use their money for a good cause. Okay, that also happens with a lot of God's grace, and possibly a lot of pure intentions around it as well. Not even if you have the best of intentions, money will find its own ways in things that will probably not add a lot of value. So if it gets utilized in a good thing, you are able to put a vessel, that is also God's grace. Same thing goes with time as well. Time will find its way. Everybody has 24 hours in a day, right? Nobody has an ability to stop the rotation of the earth and make it from 24 to 25. And people who are successful in life, for them, those 24 into 60 into 60 is a lot of asset, big asset. And people who have a tendency to fritter away their time, they are always running short of time, right? If you ask them, we don't have time, we're so busy. So there's a saying in English that if you want to get something done, give it to the busiest person in the world. They'll find a way to do it. So everybody has equal amount of time, but people who are super busy, there's a real problem with that. Okay. And third thing is obviously water. We don't need to get into that. So the way we spend our time, the way we budget our time, it is also one of the things that makes or breaks our spiritual journey. And we can utilize that to build an armor or befriend it, so that we can fight that formidable enemy that we are talking about, or we can fritter it away in pursuits which will fuel our desires and will be detrimental to our spiritual journey as well. So let's look at a little deeper into it. So if we have a habit of sleeping late and rising late, or sleeping early or rising early, that choice is always available to us. And if you look at from a time standpoint, most of the tamasic activities happen in the night. So if you have any friends who like to drink a lot, typically they will drink in the evenings. As soon as the sun starts setting, something triggers in their head. Okay, so tamas has taken over. They just need to have a drink at that time. I know a lot of my friends and uncles. It's like evening time when you call them up, the tamas has taken over. So it happens in the evenings mostly, because tamas is predominant at that time, and ignorance is stronger at nights. And if you look at on the other side, the yoga exercise, all these things, if you look at it, the early morning devotional service, it's recommended in the morning because the mode of goodness is highest at that point in time. And the Brahma Muhurat, that is, I mean, I wish one of those days I will be able to rise up in Brahma Muhurat. I still struggle with that occasionally, not consistently, but still I'm much better than, how it used to be before. Arjun, he had that ability, that he could conquer his sleep. So he could stay awake for as long as he wished, anytime. So I'm just on the opposite end of the spectrum. I can sleep for however long I want, whenever I want, and whatever place it is, okay, which is good and bad both. When I used to travel, it used to be a blessing because in airports, I would give an alarm and sleep. But then it's a big problem, I realize. And especially after reading that Bhagavad Gita shloka where Lord Krishna says, however you lead your life predominantly, that is what you end up becoming in your next life, right? So which freaked me out, that polar bear is the last thing one would like to be. So it's very important to regulate that, do things in moderation. That is what it is, because otherwise we are wasting time. And when we waste time, we are fueling some kind of a desire. In this case, it could be sleep, right? That is what we are fueling more. Nobody has become fresh after sleeping for 10 hours. They want to sleep more, or they'll be tired even after that. Okay, I've realized it, learned it the hard way. And to have a calm or sattvic way of life, it needs to be regulated different times of the day. We just need to make time as an asset for us that should work for us. And it's very important, as we story yesterday, every day that two rats, black and white, are pushing us towards that snake, and time lost is time lost forever. In fact, Maharaj used to say, what is the biggest loss? That is a very high goal, of course. He said the biggest loss is every moment that we spend which does not take us closer to God or develop devotion for God. So every such moment that we have lost is a loss, permanent loss for us, because time is limited for all of us. So this is the fifth one Bhagavatam talks about. The sixth one is the karma, the type of activity we do. That is very important. I think we spoke about this concept in greater detail during the Karam Yoga aspect of it. Now, even the occupation, it can have a bearing on our consciousness for that matter. Okay. The deeper concept is, doesn't matter which occupation you are in. It is your mind. Where your mind is, that determines the fruit of your action. However, for mundane or worldly standpoint, even our occupation can have a role in it. Like, for example, if somebody is working in a graveyard or he's a butcher, I mean, there was a Kasai, he was a great devotee. So not to say, I'm not stereotyping anything here, but it's just a concept that illustrates that the kind of job we do, it also has a bearing on our mind as well. So it has a tamasic value. Software engineer, I don't know, I think they are mostly in Rajasic mode. I wouldn't say it's tamasic, mostly Rajasic, I would say. Doctors, because they're helping out, probably in a sattvic mode, consciousness and help, that consciousness of saving others. But the point is, it's just a predisposition that can happen because of our occupation or the nature of our work. Doesn't mean any profession is a tamasic or a sattvic or a rajasic. Anybody can actually be gunatit. Even a butcher could actually be gunatit, especially if he's doing it as a duty and thinking about God. Okay, so don't get me wrong there that I'm stereotyping any profession here. But the point here is, the kind of activity that we are doing, typically it has a bearing on our predisposition, mental predisposition as well. However, like I said, the deeper concept is the consciousness matters, not the actual work. Like we did in Bhagavad Gita 2.47, you could be doing anything and at the same time it could be devotional. No matter what you are doing, everything can be made devotional. And that is why this shloka is one of the most powerful shlokas, at least personally I felt. It's a silver bullet Lord Krishna has given us. We cannot do kirtan, arti, sadhana throughout the day. Our mind fluctuates throughout the day. But if we can ace Karam Yoga in whatever we do and start getting closer to that consciousness where we are doing it for the sake of God, for His pleasure, focusing on the process, not on the results, offering our results to God and bringing out our best in whatever we do, then we are getting closer to the consciousness that God wants us to get in. So 2.47 is like one of those shlokas. It's kind of a silver bullet. If we simply start, centering our life around that teaching, that itself is good enough to make it a success. That is how powerful this shloka is. All right. It's 9:40. Maybe we can cover one more, or any reflections so far, because I know we have a lot to cover. Maybe I can cover one more and then we can have a bit of a discussion, and remaining we can take probably along with another session, because otherwise it will take a lot of time. So the next one is Janma, the family that we are born in. Okay. It's an interesting one. We don't control that, right? Did we? We don't control that. But I would say, yes, we control it as well. We do have an control to that also to some extent, and I'll tell you why. So let's look at first of all the influence. Obviously, it's not in our hand, and it affects our consciousness. And there are studies that show that families that you end up growing in, they strongly shape our characters as well. There can be exception to this rule as well, but typically that is how it goes. And there are a lot of organizations which take kid, before they are 7, because they think they can actually mold them. That is how impressionable our minds are, at least to begin with. But after age, it becomes very difficult. And we absorb from our family or home environment as well. Now, we don't choose that. So is somebody at a disadvantage to begin with? Yes or no? First of all, we choose our families. If we really make spirituality our goal of our life and spend a lot of time making it a priority, Lord Krishna has assured that next time he will ensure that you are born in a family where you would get the fruits of your previous merit that you have acquired, spiritual merit, pretty early on in life. So you'll be born in a family which is religious. You'll be born in a family where you are introduced to these concepts pretty early on in life, and you'll be born in a family where you'll get an environment which is conducive to take your spiritual growth to the next level. So Lord Krishna has very clearly stated that. I can bring that shloka. So that means to a certain extent, we are controlling that as well, right? The kind of lives we lead, we choose our parents, we choose our families based on the kind of lessons that are needed for us. And as part of our prarabdha, this is also one of the things that are given to us. Having said that, that is not the sole factor alone which can influence our spiritual journey. We can still we can still inquire, we can still seek, we can still put our intellect to use. And if we are lucky enough, or if we genuinely start seeking answers to these questions, God will make sure we come across a spiritual mentor or a guru, so that we can take this journey further. So to the extent that the kind of family we are born in, we can't control. So yeah, possibly we might be born at a disadvantage to begin with, but there are enough examples where people from poor families have gone on to become great people, and great spiritual people as well. So it's not an impediment that it's a permanent impediment, so to say. But yes, that initial influence that we get in our life plays a big role. However, it's not a deal breaker. But this is also one of the things that has been called out in Bhagvatam, which has a bearing on our spiritual growth. And especially if you get a conducive environment and you are introduced to the right principles right early on in the life, you would have enough understanding and knowledge to be able to ward off the regular allurements of this material world. And you'll be better equipped to handle desires which are not beneficial for you. That can happen. So that is how important the role of a family or our environment is as well. Remaining 3 we'll pick up tomorrow. We'll quickly cover it along with the next shloka. With that, I wanted to open it up for any reflections or things that you wanted to bring in based on what we have discussed so far. Please fill out the attendance tracker in the meantime. And Amrutavani ji, although your voice is low, but you can still make the announcements, and then we'll get the discussion going for the topics that we have discussed today.
Can you hear me now? Is it?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, Annapurna ji's hand has been raised from a long time. Annapurna ji, please go ahead.
Yeah.
Thank you for waiting.
Yeah. I just wanted to take a screenshot of that company, I missed that. So I thought if you go back and show me, I can take the screenshot, company, yeah.
Sure, Ji, let me.
Yeah. Because, Karma, Kal, Desh, and then Praja. I think this may be the one, Yeah.
Yeah, this is the one.
Thank you. I got it. Yeah.
No worries. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. I will lower it. Yeah.
Okay, sure. All right. Any other things that resonated with you or you wanted to add on, what we have spoken about, whether it's company, Desh, Kal or anything? I would like to hear from you as well. Just wanted to give a little bit of break to my throat so that I don't end up losing my voice like Amrutavani ji. All right.
Lakshmi Prasanna ji, please go ahead.
Yeah, Radhe Radhe. I have a small doubt, Nitinji. You said the last slide, the children can be molded before 7. Is it that fixed, or with our effects and changing our environment, can we change the kids later also? Because now I am realizing all that I'm learning now. My kid is 13 years, so I have a small doubt regarding that.
Yeah, I think there's a certain age in our scriptures, it is said when their past sanskars start taking over, and up to a certain stage they would listen to you, and so I don't know whether it is 7, the cutoff is 7, 8 or 9, but I think it initially is like Swamiji in one of his lectures he was talking about, kids until the age of 5, and for some it can go up to 7 as well. Treat them with a lot of love, velvet gloves, give them a lot of love. And after that, we start introducing the process of reward and punishment. So velvet glove and the iron glove as well, a little bit of that. But I think, and after, I think a certain age, maybe after 13 or 14, they say now whatever you were supposed to do, you've already done it. Now you just have to be a witness. Because now they're not going to listen. Their own sanskars would take over. And then now it's the wisdom that they have, their own sanskar, and whatever they have learned from this life, right, that has been imparted to them, that will take over. And for some people that teenage can go up to 30 as well, and some become wise sooner. But yes, to answer your question specifically, whether it is 7 or 8, I don't know, but yes, the kids, the sooner they are introduced to the spiritual concepts, then gives them a firm grounding of these principles. And typically I think it goes on till 7 or 8 years old. I don't know the exact one. I can probably check it out for you.
Okay, Lakshmi Prasanna ji, hope it was clear. And yes, next we have Sunit ji. Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe, Sunit ji.
Yes, Radhe Radhe. Yes, Nitin ji, when you were talking about this lure of Prashadam, this took me back when I was in college. I was I was going to college on my bicycle, and there was a Gurdwara. I make it a point to stop there to have that prashadam, that kada, the halwa.
Kada, yeah, so, very nice. Yeah.
Yes. So so I think that is working on me. Radhe Radhe.
It does. In fact, the lure of aloo puri and kadi chawal got me started, okay, as well, and that's how I got connected with Swamiji. It can happen. I think God also knows, and he says yen kain prakar. And so however we do, even if we start in taking prasad, right, or go to temple and simply sit there, it will start having some kind of a transformation. That is how powerful it is. Very true. Thank you for sharing that. And I love that kada, by the way. It's very, very nice.
Mataji, please go ahead. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. I had a question actually. The question was, I mean, in the last one you said that we choose our parents. I have always thought that, I mean, based on our karma, we meet people as our relatives on this earth. So I got a little confused about that part.
Sure. I think tomorrow or maybe in the next session, we'll talk about the different the karmas that we have to deal with. Prarabdh, aprarabdh, kriyaman, all that stuff. So see, the stockpile of our karmas is like a big ocean, because we have lived infinite lifetimes. And if we were to accumulate all that karmas, it will be a vast ocean, right? Now, a drop is picked from that ocean and given to us in a particular human life. Now, which drop is picked up, God only knows. He only knows the formula. Maybe he knows what is best for us in this life. So to that extent, prarabdha is something that we are born with, which includes the kind of family we will be born in, the kind of circumstances we'll typically have in our life, right? Which is called fate, or part of it. the kind of exit we will have from this world, all that is something that is given to us as part of our prarabdha. So to that extent, it is dictated by our karmas, right? Even though it is given to us by God, it, to some extent we have chosen it, right? That these are the kind of families, or these are the kind of lessons which are pending that for our soul, because of which it influenced the kind of family or situation we were born in. So it's not something whimsical that just happened to us. It was chosen by us in a way that because it's dictated by our past karmas only.
Okay.
And Krishna says that if you're not able to complete your journey and you have made spirituality your priority, I will make sure that you are born in a family that will help you continue with your spiritual growth in your next life. So that assurance he is given in Bhagavad Gita only.
Thank you.
Thank you, Smitaji.
Nitinji, there are a couple of questions. I'll just read it out so that one question is, please share all 10 points so that I can screenshot it.
Sure.
That's the question.
So what I'll do is tomorrow anyway we are going to finish this, so I will upload this on our portal. If you're not on portal, you should be able to see all the 10 points on the portal. I typically upload the materials as soon as we complete that entire topic, so you should be able to get those. No worries.
And one more thing is, can we know what type of food we can take in the night to get rid of oversleeping and waking up at Brahma Muhurta?
If you find that food, let me know as well, okay? But I think typically it says is that you should have it on or around sunset, not after that, and give a 3-hour difference between your last meal and your sleep. The sooner we have, the better it is. Only demons eat at night, and most of us eat at night, okay? So I've tried to make it early supper and dinner. So the sooner we eat, the better our odds that body would have digested it as well, and it would wake up without any lethargy. But if you eat late and sleep immediately after that, there's a good chance you will be lethargic in the morning. It's like I have done my job of eating and satiating my senses. Now heart, liver, you do your job, okay? I don't care what you do. But they do care, okay? They have to work hard and then they start crying. And one day when they give up, we start crying, okay? So it's important to take care of our organs and give them a good break, a breathing time as well to digest the food. And if we have light meals in the night and at least 3 to 4 hours before the sleep, there's a good chance we will be able to get up in the morning without feeling lethargic. I've tried it and it works, so you can try it as well.
Shyamji, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
My wife wants to share something with my
Yes, please.
Radhe Radhe. Good morning, evening to all the beautiful souls. Atma Namaste. That is how I generally start. Actually, Nitin bhai, you just said, about your surroundings really matter. I'm not saying that I disagree with this, but I have, there are two very strong beliefs I have. One is that, raise your vibrations to that level that people start getting, I will not say affected, I mean, attracted towards what you do. And the second, very, very important is that we all are the chosen ones. That is why we are on this spiritual path. No matter where we are, whatever surroundings we live in, still, we can raise our vibrations that much. Like me and Shyam, we belong to the advertising industry. And throughout the world, advertising, film industry is something which is like, we all know, what happens and what kind of extent a people can go to get the work. Yeah. But, we've been surviving for last 25 years. And sorry, what you said?
I said wonderful.
Yeah, and and without any bad habits of smoking or drinking or something like that. Yes, we take a drink or something, but that's like once in a year or something like that. That's also in some blue moon or in a good company. And the other very important, I have a spiritual group in Las Vegas, and being in that sinful city, I've been practicing with them off and on, especially last lockdown. I was very, very regular to practice with them every day, about manifestations, about, arhatic yoga and all that. So again, my input towards or giveaway to everybody in this group is that, raise your vibrations to that level that it just does not affect whether you are in a Sin City or you stay in Delhi or New York or wherever. So
great point. Very true. That's the best way to actually immune yourself from what is happening around in your surroundings. But yeah, for majority of the people, it can have a bearing, because those vibrations do play on our mind, right? I always like to bring that example that Swamiji says, a beautiful example. It's like they say, when the milk comes in contact with water, it starts getting diluted, right? But then when the same milk, you preserve it, keep it on the side, you make a yogurt out of it, you start churning it, you get the butter out of it, that butter can now challenge the water, that, no matter what you do, I can float on top of your head. So if you've already become butter, congratulations. But then until we become butter, we got to protect ourselves, because there is a chance that, when we come in contact with water, some dilution might happen. But yes, if you are able to raise that consciously, mindfully, and repeatedly, nothing like it. That's really wonderful.
Yeah, thank you so much. I thought I should.
No, thank you. It's good to hear from you. I always get to hear from Shyamji. In fact, I get to see him smile more than talk, but it's always good to hear from you as well. So thank you very much for that. Radhe Radhe. Atma Namaste.
Thank you, Shyamji, Mr. Shyamji. That was really nice. Thank you so much. Jyotiji.
Jyotiji, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe Amritwani ji, Radhe Radhe Nitin ji, and everybody. I just want to share the aspect of when you talked about birth in Srimad Bhagavad. Narad Muni's birth is very, very miraculous too. He was originally a Gandharv, and then he got distracted by the Apsaras during one concert, and then he gets cursed. He gets born to a poor Brahmin woman who is in service of the sages. And through association of those sages, and by eating the prasad that they leave behind, his consciousness gets so pure that he pursues Bhagwanji, so much so that his mom dies when he is very little, and he takes that as a mercy of God, and he pursues God to the extent that he becomes the sage that we know him to be. And that is the extent of God's mercy that can come in strange ways, but it all comes with the aspect of the birth that you have, and the association, and the food, and all the things that you spoke about just now. Narad Muni lives that life and shows us that it is possible. And one other humorous thing that I heard recently in another class, I think it was Harish's class, that said there's a parrot sitting on a tree, and the parrot is speaking, and there are three men sitting under the tree, and the three of them hear different things. So one of them hear the parrot saying, "Pan bidi cigarette." And then the other man that is sitting under the tree is very athletic, and so he is hearing Dand Baitak Kasrat. And the third person is very sattvic, and he hears Ram Sita Dashrath. So the same experience that comes across to us, that it depends on our consciousness how we take it. And so God gives us these opportunities, and we have to train our consciousness to see Ram, Sita, Dashrath instead of, the other two.
Wonderful.
Radhe Radhe.
That's a beautiful, humorous story. And a great thing that you spoke about, Naradji, corroborating the examples that we spoke about today, each of the points. In fact, this is said that, even eating the remnants of sages, sadhu sant, the jutan or the remnant, it is very powerful way to purify yourself, of a true sage, of course. Now, if you eat remnants of somebody who's having cavities and he's not a saint, then good luck. But typically that is considered very purificated. And like you said, right, Narad Muni used to eat that as well. So thank you so much, Jyotiji, for that Bhagavatam reference. Wonderful. Loved it.
Thank you, Jyotiji. So Ragni ji has said that that was a lovely analogy of butter and milk. Thank you, Nitinji. Both inputs from Nitinji and Shyamji's wife feels so right. just the state of mind is different in the two scenarios. Very true.
Very true. Yep. Yeah, I think we should fill ourselves so much with positivity that there is no scope or room for negativity. That is such a great mindset to have. That goes back to what Shamji's wife said today. Just love that part. Let's hear from other participants as well, real quick. And in the meantime, please do fill out the attendance tracker. Provide your feedback. I always like to read it, occasionally. So, yes.
Seemaji, please go ahead. Radhe Radhe.
Amritwani ji and Nitin ji. I'll try to recall what I was going to say. This was a while ago. Okay, the karmas, and I feel, and I've been reading, that we don't get to choose our parents and situations. If we did, we wouldn't be choosing our life the way it is now. Some of us anyway. And so it is.
Sorry to interrupt. I think there is some little disturbance from your side. If you can.
On my side?
I think I'm hearing some disturbance. So.
Yeah, we don't get what we desire. We get what we deserve.
Right.
Yeah. The rule of prarabdha works. So
we get what we deserve because those have been our karmas in terms of a karmic debt versus karmic credits that we have accumulated in the past lives. And so we get the families and so on and so on. Okay, that was one point. The other one is the type of food that we put in becomes our the type of food from each of the five senses is what affects us.
Yes.
The sense of taste is the most dominant sense.
Yes.
So what I realized was, if you want to subdue the other senses, one can really investigate and find out which of their other five senses is most dominant for them, and try to meditate on that, and then try to subdue those. But overall subduing of all the five senses comes from sense of taste, fasting for food, that is, because I contemplated on that as to why. And I realized because when we fast, we are not supplying the energy, the glucose, the blood supply to the other senses, so they are totally subdued. And then as soon as we eat, suddenly they feel alive. There's something else I was going to say, but I don't have the list that you talked about, and my clock is running out. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Seemaji. You can elaborate. I'm sure you're going to download a lot of dump from up above, and you can put it on portal as well. So thank you very much for that. Yes, we can quickly hear. I know we are over time, so real quick, if all of you can.
Go ahead, Rupaji. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Rupaji.
Radhe Radhe, Nitinji and Amritwaniji. Actually, Nitinji, like whatever points you said, maybe I said I'm very beginner into this spiritual path. My point is, like, we cannot choose the family, definitely, and sometimes the surroundings. And my perception is like, our parents definitely rise for good only. So up to some extent, I mean, up to the age of 7 or 8, whatever you're saying, maybe 10, we really learn everything. After that, we become our own, right? So after that, whichever environment you go in, I mean, my perception is like we should be like a lotus leaf. If something is bad also, it shouldn't affect you if you are good from inside. Yeah. And also, like, if bad is there, it is accepting it or not, it's upon you. After you get your thinking, your understanding and all. And also one thing is there, like, if we are going in some new environment, the things, we should be like a magnet to attract towards the good things, and we should be like a lotus leaf for the bad things.
Very
if
true.
We are strong from inside.
Yes.
Yeah, maybe whether I have put it in a right way or not.
You have.
Because
very true. I think scriptures also talk about the same thing. You should be, like a lotus leaf. It's like a boat in water. You can navigate, but don't let the water come inside. And when you look around the world, you pick only the good thing. They are called hunts. So the first quality is hunts. You take the milk and leave the water. So the second quality is Paramhans, where you see everything as a milk only. Okay, that is even advanced stage. So I think you're already in the Hans stage. That's wonderful. Pick up only the good things, leave the rest. And that is a great mindset to have, because typically we look at faults more than people's virtues, right? It's like, and if you're already getting that mindset and working on it, wonderful. Great points, Rupaji. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you,
All right.
Rupaji. Nitinji, it reminded me of my grandmom when I was young. I remember my grandmom telling me, you should be like a lotus flower leaf. So suddenly I remembered my grandmom when Rupaji said that.
Yeah, lotus flower leaves, right? Kichad mein kamal, they say in India, right? That's such a good analogy that is being provided. So very true. Scriptures refer to that as well in a lot of places. So great.
Yeah. When my grandmom said, I did not understand. Now I can.
So you can thank Rupaji for that.
Yes, thank you so much, Rupaji. And hope my voice is clear and loud now.
It is very loud and very clear. Okay, do we have anybody else?
Yes, we have Shyamji. Go ahead, Shyamji.
Right.
I want to share my experience. I ordered Swamiji's book last week.
Oh, wonderful.
Song of God. So when I saw it, it was a quite thick book, 1,000 pages. I did not open it for one full day. Then the second day when I opened it, it was Gita in it with all the slokas. Then my son Palin, last evening, he said, when will you start the book reading? It's a good days going on nowadays. So I said, let me see when will I start. So today morning, he woke up with me around 7ish, and since morning, he's reading the book. So it's all the matters. He has started the book before me, and I still do not know when will I start. But since morning, he's reading it, and he has said that the book says about science also. It's not only about Gita, it is about science. Manika, I have no idea. Maybe once I start it, I'll let you know. So the thing is, the company you keep matters a lot.
Yes.
It is true, right? It does matter a lot. So what we read, what we are, it depends on the children also.
Very true.
We can't teach them, as you rightly said. They only follow us. No matter we teach them to be good, be bad, they will not. They will just imitate you, follow you, and that's it.
Very true. That is so true. Very true. And Palin is a special boy for sure. And I think he has that spiritual spark. Not many of his age would have that. So it's really wonderful. And I think he's in safe hands with you. And soon he will be taking discourse for you guys. Okay, I can see that coming already.
As at times he speaks, it does blow some minds at times. And we didn't understand, but he does speak in deep at times.
He has chosen you as parents. Okay, so there's a reason for that. Wonderful. Yes. Thank you so much, Shyamji.
Thank you, Shyamji. Padmaji, please go ahead. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Padmaji.
Radhe Radhe. I'll just share just an observation and I'll expand this on the portal. We have a list of 10 things and we have 5 senses. And I'm seeing a parallel. For each person, each of these things might affect to what extent on a different level. It could be physical, it could be mental, it could be emotional, or it could be spiritual. Depends on the person which of these 10 things might affect in a very deep way, whether it's physical, mental, or emotional, or spiritually. I think the whole effort is to gather all these 10 things and put our perspective of where we are in life and where we are positioned, exactly where we are supposed to be positioned by God, either because of our previous karmas or existence. I don't know the actual words that Nitinji uses, but the combination and permutation of what our karmas are from the past, it is taking us, or the intention is to take us to that equanimity, right? Which is that lotus leaf that they're talking about, to have more faith and to connect us more with the God. And that's how I see in a bigger picture that interconnectedness of our physical, emotional, and mental and spiritual connectedness to all these 10 things, and how we connect, where we are and where we are going and where we came from.
Yep. Wonderful, Padmaji. Please do expound on it further on the portal. I'm sure you'll have a lot more to add. So, but great point. Loved it. Yes. Real quick, do we have anybody else as well?
Yes, we do have few hands raised. Let me Surinder Ji, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe Surendra ji.
Radhe Radhe Prabhu. I am late in the light.
No worries.
I only wish that the points we have covered, Prarabdh, you had mentioned about that. I recollect that when we are born, we have that system of Janampatri, the horoscope.
Janampatri, yes, horoscope.
Yeah, in the horoscope, you have not many attributes. One of them is Yoni. Yoni is like Singh Yoni, horse Yoni, etc., etc. Which describes what nature you had in your early. Our astrology is not without science. It does have some relevance.
It is a perfect.
That really explains what you have just narrated.
Very true. It is a perfect science. But at the same time, Swamiji says don't go with that, because first of all, you'll not find a perfect astrologer. Secondly, even if you find one, what will you do by knowing what is in store for you in future? If it is something bad, you'll become depressed today. You'll lose focus on what you can do today. And if it is something good, you may become complacent. Anyway, something good is going to happen. So although it's a perfect science, but then from a devotional standpoint, it really doesn't add much value.
We can improve. We can always have this chance to improve.
Yes. Thank you very much, Surendra ji.
Thank you, dear. Thank you. Radhe Radhe.
Thank you, Surendra ji.
Thank
you. Pragya ji, Seema ji, I'll give it to you after Pragya ji. Pragya ji, please go ahead.
Yes, Pragya ji.
Radhe Radhe Nitin, Radhe Radhe Swamiji and everyone. Beautiful examples how everything affects us, and especially when we are started on the journey. So when so many people are stuck with 8, 7, 6, 5 or whatever age, I met Swamiji in mid-age and I met Maharajji eventually. And I think for me, life started then. All the yesterdays here were in dreams, were a dream. So, and life is blissful now with a kind of knowledge and exposure and everything that I have got. So what I want to say is one can transform in any point of time. Even before your death, if you are able to take the name of God, you make your next birth. That's what Maharajji says. And Maharajji has a very beautiful lecture on it. कि चाहे आप चांडाल के घर में क्यों ना जन्म लिए हों. Chandal is the one who is at the graveyard burning bodies and helping with all this stuff, which is considered a very low in the karma category. चाहे आप उसके घर में भी जन्म लिए हो, you have the capacity to rise to a Chaturvedi Brahmin who are considered the highest in the birth yoni, on the basis of your karma, on the basis of your devotion. And in the Bhagavad Gita class, I think the one point that is stuck in my mind is again the present. You live in the present. Again, I still feel that San ka rang padta hai. And Maharajji also lays a lot of emphasis on Kusang. There's a lot of lecture series on it. At any stage of your sadhana or point, kahin pe bhi aake aap get sakte hain if your knowledge or if you come in contact with a Kusang, and there are so many examples of strawberry money and so many, there are a lot of examples in the scriptures. So yeah, we need to keep, as Vijay was saying, stop getting up there and we'll also get into it. It is like a human mind, like we are not butter as yet. Many times we tend to split. So yeah, company matters, and yes, we can transform at any moment. That's it. Thank you, Radhe Radhe.
Great nuggets, Pragya ji. Yeah, I think you really touched upon the deeper philosophical concepts. Yes, company matters, but at the same time, we can transform at any level. It's like Prarabdha is just one part of the equation, right? It's like the cards that you are dealt with are fixed. So it's like a game of poker. The cards are fixed. You can't do anything with the hand that you are dealt with. However, you can win with the bad cards, and at the same time, you can lose with good cards. So regardless of where we are born, based on our prarabdha, whatever is given to us, doesn't matter, right? Saint Ravidas, he was born in a very lowly family. Kabir Das, for that matter, as well, right? But they went on to become saints and elevate themselves. So it doesn't matter. You may start off with a disadvantage, but that's not the perpetual disadvantage in life. That's essentially what the message is. And devotion path, the beauty of it is it's open for everyone at every moment. And anybody can transform anytime. The day we get that resolve, that God, and that surrender and that faith, all that stuff comes together, it can happen to anybody anytime. That is the biggest hope each one of us has. So great. Last one. I think we are way over time, so we'll take one more, maybe real quick, Seema ji, and then call it day. You can fill out the attendance tracker. Look forward to building on this discussion tomorrow. And thank you again for your enthusiastic participation. Yes, Seema ji, real quick.
Yeah, I was going to say about the age. I read somewhere that age 7, 14, 21, 28, these are 4 cycles of 7. A 7-year rule, because all our physical cells are replaced 100%.
Oh,
and
wow.
so the first years of our life, our subconscious is paper thin. Therefore, whatever we put in the consciousness of the kids, it directly immerses in the subconsciousness and gradually expels later on in life. Therefore, we must use sattvic info only in those kids. And the other thing I think I wanted to say, Surendraji's, or someone else, I think, who was it? Yeah. That not to put so much faith in those Janma Patrikas, because if it is information based on the stars and the what happened in the past, but it is up to us to take charge of the present, so our future will be better. And one example that comes to my mind is that Brahma Kumari says, Sister Shivani's diabetes. If we have hereditary diabetes genes in our chromosomes, then if we change our lifestyle to the proper healthy lifestyle, then we can avoid that prediction that's in the Patrika. So changing the lifestyle currently changes our future in this life. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Again, the focus on present and focus on Purusharth, what is there in our hand as opposed to what we are given with. Wonderful discussion. Let's do our closing prayers, and then we will continue with our discussion tomorrow. We have 3 more points plus the next shloka we'll do tomorrow. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah, Sarve Santu Niramaya, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschit Dukh Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Thank you, everybody. Radhe Radhe, and have a wonderful day and a great rest of your day.
Until we finish the tracker. I don't have that.
Sorry,
Yes.
I didn't.
Nobody is allowed to go home until they finish the tracker. Okay, let's announce that.
We are already at home.
Okay.
Smita ji, I see your hand. Smita ji, Radhe Radhe, if you can unmute yourself.
Yes, Smita ji.
I don't see that.
Radhe Radhe. This is the same point regarding what Surinder ji and the one who spoke, I don't know her name. Radhe Radhe to everybody. I just wanted to add one more point. Yes, the astrological facts are actually scientific, but they are taught not to tell the things which means harm to the person. And it is just like a person who enters the doctor. Who enters the doctor's cabin and so looking at the situation, the doctor says, at present you are this, and this is what you have to do for the future. So for some it may act negative, and for some it may act as positive. So we need to see the right person to approach, but not completely only believe that and lead our life.
Yeah, we could take it to any level, if you want to discuss on this topic, because it can go. But I think purely if we limit it to from a devotion standpoint, anything that does not help us take our mind towards God or develop love towards God is not worth adding to our lives. So, and this also probably falls into that category only because it shifts the focus away from present, what is there in our hand, and takes us more towards future or past, which really doesn't add much value as such. Anyway, it's a good conversation. We can continue on portal. Thank you again, everybody. Have a wonderful day and a great rest of your evening. And I look forward to seeing you all tomorrow. Radhe Radhe.
Thank you, Nitinji, for the wonderful session. Thank you, everyone, for the wonderful participation. Thank you so much, everyone. I'll be closing the bridge now. See you all tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.